the system doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Clearly, you can game the system.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would never blame the students for using AI. Like, I mean, that's the system, and like it's like that. So hey, do whatever you want.
I know this is maybe a little bit red hot, but like at some point AI should be allowed at exams. And it's like, how do you come to these conclusions using the tools you have around you and the tools you will have in the real world? I don't blame schools and unis for not adapting within the last 3 years. That's too quick.
Yeah.
However, I don't think they will ever adapt because they haven't adapted in the last 40 years really.
Well, if they don't adapt, then I honestly don't see like what's the point of school.
All right, Phil. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to have you here. It's interesting. I often do podcast episodes that I call like generic episodes, which are just with people and we'll talk about anything about their life and stuff. And then I feel like I have episodes which are probably like this one, which are more like niche and specific on topics. And they're both good, but I do love the niche ones because we get to go really deep into it. And I know you're like, you're deep into AI. You do your own company, you do consulting. And then I specifically haven't asked you many questions yet because I wanted to do it on the podcast. However, I do ask one question at the beginning of each episode, and I'd love to know just to like a little bit about your story. And the question is, what did you do after high school? What was going on in your head? What was going on in the world? Like, did you go to uni? Did you study? Were you confused? Did you travel? Like, tell us that journey and kind of how you got to where you are.
Oh, that's a very good start. I was, I think like a lot of students, pretty lost. At the end of high school, I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. I don't think school, for me at least, didn't facilitate really like what I should be doing after school. I just knew that there were certain things that I didn't want to do, and there were certain things that I couldn't do just because of my marks. In the end, I ended up choosing engineering, just because that's like the general thing that big guys kind of do. I didn't really have any. I wasn't exactly passionate about any of the other sort of things, courses, and I didn't really know what they like, what was sort of in them and like how that would work. So I just chose engineering. Funnily enough, I chose at UC at Sydney Uni. There's flexible first year engineering. Have you heard of that?
No.
So it's basically you do the first semester of uni and you don't actually choose a specific course.
Right.
You do the general, because all the engineering students do the same units in the first semester.
Right.
And then so after the first semester, you get to pick which course to go into.
That's fine.
Yeah. And so there was a subject for like software, there was a subject for civil and chemical and a few other ones. And so at the end of the semester, out of all the students that I had met that did the flexible first year engineering, I was the only one that failed software.
Oh, really?
And I also was the only one that chose software.
Right.
And all the other guys and everybody else I met passed the software unit, but they didn't choose software. But I ended up choosing software engineering because that was the only one, even though I failed the unit, it was the only one that I thought was a bit interesting. And I found it to be the problem solving aspect really, I found really enjoyable. So I chose software engineering. I did that for about 2.5 years. And that's when I started getting into startups. I had an idea and I was like, oh, I think this can be really good. It was about digitizing receipts. And that was when I first got into startups. I did, UCID has like a startup competition kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's called Genesis. And then that was my sort of first intro into startups. And then from there, I just met a lot of people, learned a lot about startups and that kind of thing. So I tried to do that for a couple of years. And then COVID came around. And I got really bored of uni. So I just left and applied for a whole bunch of jobs and I got a job.
Well, man, software engineers were in such high demand.
Yeah,
in like 2020 to 2022, it was
100%,
unbelievable.
100%.
And then it like fell off a cliff, I feel like.
Yes, it did. Yes, it absolutely did. I think I got lucky because I didn't actually have an internship or any work experience in industry. But I still got hired because of my experience in my startup, because I had learned a lot about payments and that kind of thing. And the company that I applied for, they were building out a payments team. So I ended up sort of joining their original payments team and worked there for about 7 or 8 months. And I kind of got bored of that as well. Yeah. And then I went back to uni. I finished off my degree. And then at that point, at the end of that, this was at the end of 2022. So I finished my degree after a long time. That's when ChatGPT came out.
Yeah.
And just like a month or two after that, I started writing the newsletter. I started writing a newsletter. And I actually started the newsletter. I didn't have any plans to monetize it or create a business out of it. I just started writing it because I noticed that my friends didn't know what was happening in the space. And I wanted to be able to have conversations with them about AI. So I started writing the newsletter and I told them, hey, you guys sign up for the newsletter so that we can then have conversations about it. And then I started posting about it online because I realized that people online don't know what's happening either. And that sort of just blew up. And the newsletter got like 7,000 subscribers
Wow.
over like a couple months, like 2 months or something.
Did you know what's crazy? The episode that comes out before you, which I recorded this morning because we're doing 2 episodes today, is with a guy called Dan Brockwell, you know?
Oh, of course, yeah, from Earlywork.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Literally identical story.
Yeah.
I shit you not, he started a newsletter and was like, because he kept telling all his friends, he's like, okay, how about you guys just join his newsletter and I can send it out to all of you guys at once. And then it blew up, so he got a few thousand subscribers, and that's the start of his journey, almost identical. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's pretty much exactly how I did it as well. I just put it out there online, and like I mainly read it actually. And yeah, it got like 7,000 subscribers, and so obviously I started getting consistent with the newsletter, and then through the newsletter, like people just started reaching out to me. Like companies started reaching out. They're like, hey, we noticed that you're in the AI space and you're pretty heavily involved. Can you help us out? Do some consulting. And that's how I started consulting. And I started my consultancy, and I started consulting and building products for companies. I've been doing that for years.
Wow. There you go. That's awesome, man. And so what got you interested into AI? Like, why were you so it sounds like you had your finger on pulse. It came out, because there's obviously so much about AI right now. The newsletter would not be as interesting as probably when you launched it. It was.
Oh, actually, I disagree.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
You still think it's so much like, I guess there is a lot of murky waters out there. It is very.
There is so much happening.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So you still do the newsletter?
Oh, yeah. I've been doing the newsletter since February 2023.
Yeah. Amazing consistency.
Oh, yeah. There was a few, like, couple weeks or a month or two here and there. But yeah, I've been doing it since, yeah.
Awesome. And what got you interested in the newsletter and AI? Like, why was that such a...
I mean, ChatGPT came out, right? And it was just like, everybody was, and so was I. We were just like, what is this AI? How does this work? It works, it sounds like a human, and it's this AI. So it was just something that I found really interesting. And I was playing around with it a lot, obviously. I was just like building little tools for myself, and I wasn't doing anything else at the time. I had just finished uni and I wasn't working. So I was just playing around with it, learning a lot about AI. And I just found it really interesting. And the newsletter, I just started writing it because I realized that a lot of people, especially people around me, didn't really know what was happening. And I was just thought, hey, this would be cool. I'll give it a try. I had no intention of making a business out of it or a career out of anything like that. It was just for me a way to just write about what I was seeing and what was happening in the space.
Yeah. And what are you doing consulting? Like, what does that mean to be like an AI consultant? It's like it's like got to be the most modern job ever. And also like, what is an AI expert? Because obviously AI is so new. Mm-hmm. How do you like what got you? Obviously, you got into space for the newsletter, but what do you actually do? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So the newsletter is mainly just sort of a way for people to understand what's happening in the space. Yeah. Whether that's new models coming out or just news regarding companies or new tools that are coming out and stuff like that.
So updates and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of research. I love talking about new research, because that's where all like the frontier basically is for AI, and obviously into the average person isn't reading research patterns, right? So I love exploring that stuff as well. But that's the newsletter. With consulting, I think a lot of people do it differently. For me personally, before you do any actual AI implementation or anything, you have to figure out what is actually required. So AI has become obviously like a massive buzzword. And so a lot of companies have come to me and they say, we want to implement AI.
It is like the biggest buzzword of all time. Every software I use is like implementing these AI things that nobody needs, just to say they've got it in there. And I'm like, this is so like, it's cool to have, but like, they're just like, like everyone, and they're all like an additional tier on the subscriptions. You would pay like another $10 per user or whatever. It's cool. I love to see it, but it's very overwhelming.
Absolutely. And so a lot of companies, they'll say, we want to implement AI. And so I'll be like, okay, why? And then somebody is like, wait, why do we want it? Like I've met people that have said we need to implement AI, and when I ask them why, they say it's because like the higher ups have said we have to.
So they're saying it because it's like a trend, and everyone else like you need an AI.
Yeah, it's just like investors are saying, "Where's your AI? Why aren't you doing anything?" AI kind of thing, right? So it's become at that level. So initially, to be honest, half the work really is helping the company figure out what they are currently doing and where AI fits into that. And what I have been surprised the most about, to be honest, is that I have found a lot of companies, like even larger, significantly large companies, don't have any documentation about their own processes. They don't even know how their own companies work.
Right.
That's been very surprising to me. So a lot of the work that we do initially is simply like, I guess, traditional business consultant, really. It's like understanding how a company functions, what are their processes, and then we figure out, and then I basically come in and tell them, I think you should implement AI here, and then we go and actually implement it.
Yeah. And so like you look at their whole systems and procedures,
Yeah.
and you look at, okay, how can we basically remove some of the grunt work? And like it might be, for example, could it be like, onboarding employees? How can we add AI to like connect softwares and onboard employees and like just like, because I mean at scale, obviously that can end up saving a lot of money.
Oh yes, exactly. Like I think as an example, if I can give an example, I've worked with the largest company in Australia that helps Aussies get refunds on junk insurance that was sold to them, called Claimer. And so they process like thousands of requests a week, where like the big four banks or some lenders basically sold some insurance illegally over the last like 20 years or so. And so what we did was, initially what was happening was somebody would put in like a request and they would fill out like a form, and then a person would actually go read the form and then like figure out, okay, what legislation and what sort of problems are sort of related to the story. And then they would sort of then have another process after that. And what we did was we just came in, we used AI to sort of do that step for them. And they've gone like from like, let's say 10 minutes to like 10 seconds.
Right.
Right.
Times thousands of thousands of times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they've saved so much time. And so they're able to like process way more inquiries.
Okay, good example. Let's flesh it out because I always like having examples for people listening. So when you do that, what does that mean? Are you like creating your own GPT? Are you taking a model? Are you like installing it within their software? Like what is it actually? What is it? Because AI said it's what does it mean?
Yeah. So it's basically like building an entirely new workflow. So we had to put up like an internal sort of website for their employees. And they would then like sort of work through the requests that came in. And to be honest, in terms of like the usage, they just click a button and the system does all the work.
What's the system?
So the system itself is connected to a lot of their internal information that they have regarding legislation, regarding issues around misuse of selling insurance. And so it's connected to a lot of their internal...
As in the AI can read all that.
Yeah, so the AI takes in all the internal information and then understands that, and then it looks at the request and says, okay, based on this request, this is a legislation that's been broken and these sort of issues with it.
As opposed to somebody having to manually do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so is that just is that built into their software or are they just using ChatGPT or some
Oh, no. So it's like a custom software. So it's not like in ChatGPT or that's like a custom sort of application.
And do you guys build that or is...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I actually built that one myself.
Right. And you're building it off like a language model or something?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not very good at this stuff.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. It's actually like because I've been doing it for so long time. So I'm brushing over a lot of the.
Yes.
That's my fault.
No, that's okay.
So initially, I actually use. Have you heard of Claude?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I actually use Claude.
It seems to be the one that a lot of people are recommending.
So Claude is, in my opinion, has been the best AI model for like at least the last year.
Yeah.
I think it's like really, really good. I haven't used ChatGPT in a very long time.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying ChatGPT is going to be like the Yahoo. They kind of first ones out, but then, or like Bing sort of thing, which I know is a brutal claim.
Oh, I think it's too early to say that. They're still definitely the leaders in the space. They have a lot of the talent and they're still ahead in terms of everybody else, in terms of like the research and the best models coming out. But I think they're doing questionable things, but that's not related to that.
Keep that for another episode.
Yeah. So yeah, I built it on Claude, and it was just simply a matter of understanding how to get the information into the AI, how to get the information to the AI model, and how to make it so that they can process hundreds and thousands of requests.
And so when you're building Claude, are you literally going into Claude and then like, what does that process look like? You're like, obviously you're probably copy and pasting all of the documentation I have or setting the website link and it's like learning it all and you're like, giving it feedback and everything. And then once you've got that trained up, can you export it or like do you integrate it with something?
Okay, that's a good question.
I'm trying to visualize.
Yeah. Okay, so like how you can just prompt an AI.
Yes.
So you can think of it like excuse me, you can think of it like a way to like prompt it, like, you know what prompt training is,
Yes.
right? So you can just prompt it multiple times.
That's why I live off prompt training. It's like my AI knows driven young, like all the language I wanted to use, or like I'm always like, okay, I'll say next time don't use this word, use this, and remember that, and like constantly updating it.
Yeah. So there is that as well, where like you can have like reference files so the AI can reference and be like, okay, based on these rules, what should I do? And obviously there's like, you have your system prompt. You can do stuff like prompt chaining, where you sort of give examples to the AI so it understands that, okay, based off of these examples, how can I answer the questions correctly? And then it's simply more a matter of just like engineering it so that it can be usable for multiple people, and it can sort of take on the load of like the usage rate.
Right. And then once, let's say you opt into Claude, you've done your stuff, you've got it all trained up and you're happy with it. What do you do with it then? And
You sort of then connect it to like a front end,
Right.
like a website basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you connect it to the website, and then
Yes.
and that's how we'll go through that. Amazing. Okay. It's not as intimidating as it's
No,
that.
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Like, I think a lot of people are very intimidated by the whole, they hear, they go, oh, wow, that's very technical. I think it's definitely not as hard as it may seem. I think now with the right tools, anybody can build something pretty cool.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, let's talk about like, I guess, the future and like where you think AI is heading and whatnot. Like, obviously, well, first of all, how do you think AI is affecting just everyday people? What do you think? I mean, I think it's a huge play in like the education space in school. Like, obviously, I don't think you have AI in school either, do you? And like, man, that's got to be the temptation to just get it to do all the work for you. And I literally just today, Gemini, which is what I use, just was like, hey, we've got a new deep research feature. Do you want to try it? I was like, yeah, I'll try it. Send it to the website, and it does like a huge report breaking down, and it references like 15 different websites, all linked to it, media articles, everything. And I'm like, that's like 5 hours of work.
Yeah.
Probably that's probably more. That's like a whole assignment, bang. And it took like 5 minutes. And it's like, surely that's going to be massively impacting just learning in the education space. What are your thoughts on it impacting that area?
It's definitely going to have a massive impact on education. I think we're already seeing that. Obviously, like, I don't blame students for using AI. If I was in school,
I know. So no, we can sit here and act like we're better, but we won't be.
I'm never going to pretend I would 100%.
Because I would cut corners, I would go.
I would be using AI for sure. But I think the good thing here is that then we can actually question and like look at, okay, if the current education system is not appropriate in the current AI space, how can we make it appropriate, right? Like, what are the changes that we can make? And how can we ensure that students are actually learning the right things and actually learning? I think with AI, especially in education, the real powerful thing there is that students can have access to a 24/7 online available, always patient, extremely knowledgeable tutor, AI tutor. And I think if built the correct way, that can be immensely powerful and empowering to a lot of students, and they can learn very quickly and they learn a lot.
Yeah, you could learn so quickly that you can just prompt it like, I can't solve this, explain it to me.
Absolutely.
Explain it to me how to, because like, that's how I've often found, like, even like I was really bad at math. I just never was really good at it. But I remember there's a few times when a teacher would explain it in a way, and I'm like, oh, is that all it is? That's not that hard. And I feel like, if you had an AI that would have helped me a lot, because yeah, it can just like, if you use AI as like and that's what I said to you before off camera. I mean, for me, AI is like the ultimate brainstorming tool. That's how I love it. I love just being like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, how can I refine this? And it gives me like all these different perspectives and ideas that just provoke me to think more. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. And so even though it often won't come up with a solution, it'll help me achieve my own solution. It'll get me closer to the solution. That's how I like to use it, versus just like, hey, prompt it, just copy and paste it, that's done. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it can be an ultimate tutor, or it could be the ultimate cheater, depending on, I guess, how people use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's also why I think like the way schools actually test students has to change as well.
Yeah.
But just as an example on the tutor thing, so the reason why I'm so passionate about this and why I kind of have an insight into this is because I actually built an AI tutor for a company. I can't really talk about the company itself, but I built this and I saw how students used it come exam time, right? And it was just fascinating. Like, I've seen students use it so much, and like the way they learn and the speed at which they learn and they explore ideas, like, I wish I had that when I was in school.
Oh man, even having to think about it right now, I'm like, yeah, actually, if they use it right, it would be so efficient.
It's incredible. Like, and I think what it does is, from what I have, what I noticed, like with the usage from the tool, is that it raised the floor a lot. Right? It did. Okay, it may not necessarily help the smartest students, but all that normal sort of average kind of students, baseline, the baseline, it had helped raise that significantly. Simply because like a lot of students, they learn in completely unique ways. And the beauty about using AI for this is that it can be personalized to any particular student, however you want to learn. You want to learn with like, examples or like scenarios. Okay, you can learn it that way. You want to learn with theory, you can learn it that way, right? And so seeing that play out in real time, for me, like it was very, I loved seeing it, and I actually used it myself to learn this. So.
I mean, the idea that you could have a problem and be like, give me 5 practical examples on where this problem solves is so useful, because I found examples a way more tangible way. I also found that like often I hated how much theory it was. I'm like, when is this ever going to be applicable in the real world? And if you're like, give me 5 examples of how someone would use it in the real world, and you're like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. And I found if I found a reason that I'd be used in the future, I'd be more interested in learning it.
Absolutely.
And my issue with school is so much of what we learn is not being used in the future. It's like, we're learning this just because you think we need to learn it. And it's like, AI has changed the game. Like, even, having a calculator in your pocket has kind of changed the game as well.
Of course.
It's like so much of what we learned, it's like, you need to understand the fundamentals, but like, you're always going to have a calculator with you. And now you're pretty much always going to have AI with you, and it's only going to get more accessible.
Right. So that's why I think with school, it's going to be more important to teach students how to learn self.
Which is what, honestly, they needed that for the last 34 years. And now more than ever.
Exactly. Well, I mean, at least AI has basically like sort of opened everybody's eyes to the fact that, listen, the system doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And clearly, you can game the system.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would never blame the students for using AI. Like, I mean, that's the system. And like, it's like that. So, hey, do whatever you want.
Even like, the fact that you're sitting in a classroom writing essays with a pen is like, what? Like, I'm pretty sure anyone right now would be using AI to help them write the essay. Even if they're like, I don't know, I'm not saying using AI to write an essay, but assist you and help you and like come up with different ideas. Like, really, I know this is maybe a little bit red hot, but like at some point AI should be allowed at exams. And it's like, how do you come to these conclusions using the tools you have around you and the tools you will have in the real world? It's a much more, and I don't blame schools or unis for not adapting within the last 3 yees. That's too quick. However, I don't think they will ever adapt, because they haven't adapted in the last 40 years, really.
Well, if they don't adapt, then I honestly don't see, like, what's the point of school? Yeah, it's like daycare for kids that don't.
Genuinely. And it's where you start thinking, like, I'm not a big fan of the schooling system, but would I homeschool someone? Well, I want them to go to school because I want to just be around people and have those social skills and like play sport and have all those things. And I honestly think it's getting to a point where school could be just more of like a place where kids can learn how to speak and like have social interactions and whatnot. And then the education is that's come up a different way of doing education.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
Yeah. And the truth is, like, AI could do a better job than some teachers. So like, there's some phenomenal teachers out there. But man, we all had some absolute stinkers, like, who are like quite old and they're not passionate, and it's just like you're just reading through a book, highlighting stuff, and nothing is absorbing in. I mean, you have some teachers that like will completely change your perspective of something and are game changers and amazing. And I had those definitely. And you got in between teachers.
Absolutely. I mean, like the research, like, so there's been a number of research studies showing the impact of AI on students' learning. Like there was one in Nigeria, I believe, and the students who used AI twice a week for like 6 weeks, and they showed learning improvements that they previously saw over the course of 2 years.
Wow.
Right? So like the studies have shown that when students use AI to learn, and it's facilitated by teachers, so it's not like teachers aren't there, they learn a lot very quickly, and it has massive implications on their results. And what this research study showed, this particular one, also interesting, is that their results on stuff that they didn't even learn from AI also got better.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they did it for, let's say, maths, but their English results and their other science results got better as well.
Wow.
Right? So their learning generally increased, and it got better, and their skills got better.
Which is the way I think has to be done. It's not like, hey, sit at home and use AI to learn.
No.
It's like complement, using it with in person and having people adapting you.
Absolutely.
And so what are your thoughts on, like, how do you see our, like, AI as an everyday thing for most people? Do you think it's because I guess when it came out, well, I guess it's going to change the world, and it is changing the world. But what are we, like 3-4 years since ChatGPT, or 2.5?
Oh, 2 and a bit, yeah.
Yeah, so it's 2025 right now, and it's definitely had a big impact. But also, like, for the generic public, I'd say it hasn't changed a lot of their lives. So, what are your thoughts on, like, how it just affects everyday people?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually think, in terms of impacting the average person, it's more so the bad things about AI. Unfortunately, they were like the misinformation,
Right.
and like the like fake images, and so the ability to spread misinformation. Unfortunately, so I'm going to be completely honest. I think the impact on the average person, is probably more likely to be misinformation than it is something to be good. Simply because most people obviously aren't aware of AI and what's happening, so they're not going to really look into it or see what it can do for them in their work. A lot of companies aren't particularly interested in adopting AI, just because of the privacy concerns or security concerns, and I think just simply a lack of understanding, really. And so in terms of the impact on the average person, I think most people can benefit from it if they actually explore it, but it's simply a time issue, right? Like, and is my work going to facilitate me to learn about it? I think young people, like school, university, 100%, I think the highest ROI thing you could do is sit down with an AI and brainstorm and figure out, what am I passionate about? What do I want to do? And explore new ideas, tinker with things, build products, build little tools. I think that can be like a massive game changer.
Yeah. And do you think companies will, if they don't adopt AI, they will fall behind?
Absolutely.
Yeah, really.
100%. Yeah. I'm not saying this is going to happen in like a year or two, but in the long term, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you just take the example that I gave regarding Claymore, this is a company that, let's say, like, because of AI, they're able to process, like thousands of requests a week. Whereas if one of their competitors, by the way, I don't actually know who it is, but like a competitor who wasn't using AI would either have to employ dozens and dozens, like probably about 50 plus people to do the same amount, or they simply just couldn't do the same amount of requests, right?
Yeah. And how much do they pay for AI? Is it free with cloud? Is it a membership, or like?
Yeah, it's not that cheap. It's not that expensive.
Yeah,
but like, right? Like, because
obviously they pay you to set it all up and everything.
Of course, but once it's done, it's done. It's right now, right? And then you only pay for the usage of the AI bottle itself, which is like, it doesn't cost a lot at all.
Yeah, compared to an employee.
Exactly. Yeah. Compared to an employee, exactly. And funnily enough, like one of the concerns that a lot of companies have is that, well, we don't want AI to make us make some of our employees redundant, or like have so we have to get rid of them. What I have seen from all the companies I've worked with is that after we've implemented AI, it's made them more efficient. So they've been able to do more work in less time, and that's generated more revenue for the company. And they've never actually let people go. So,
but do you think that will be an issue? Because surely the larger companies, like, let's say, like the Woolworths, for example, if anyone's on Australia, like, once they introduced self-checkout, they removed the ability, a lot of jobs needed, which for them is obviously a no-brainer. They got machines that don't complain, no sick days, just work. And now they only need one person who's on $30 an hour to just monitor it and fix them when they break. Surely there's going to be some, like, I know a lot of people are worried about jobs and whatnot. Surely AI is going to have a big impact over the next decade on a lot of, especially jobs that are like something that's like can be just like repeat jobs that are like factory worker, just doing the same thing. Surely they'll have an impact.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Like, if a job can be done on a computer only, it will be solved by AI.
Yeah.
Like, that's all there is to it.
So if you were sitting across from like, some young people right now, let's say 15-year-old, would you say, like, factor in as you're looking at a career that anything, be careful? Because I think the fear is, like, right now AI is not taking over a huge amount of jobs. I'm sure it still is. I don't even know, to be honest. But I haven't seen it personally. But I think we'll start to see it over the next decade. And should people be factoring that into their career plans? And should they start looking at, like, making moves now? Because, like, one of my things is, what I do. Like, I run communities, I run in-person events and whatnot. Like, I'm almost like a hedge against AI. Mm-hmm. Like, everything I do cannot be replaced by AI because we're in person
Exactly.
event, at least maybe not for 50 years or so. And I quite like that because it is definitely a worry.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Definitely yes, AI is going to impact a lot of jobs. Should young people factor AI into their futures? Yes, but I think all people don't quite understand how good it is and what's going to come out of it. Just as an example, okay, if I told you, let's say you're a 15-year-old and you're asking about the future, and I told you, okay, factor AI in, what would you consider doing at uni?
Like that to factor in like
Yeah, let's say you factored in AI. What would you consider doing at uni? They'll be like, okay, you know what? AI won't impact this. What would you do?
doctor.
Okay, number one. Oh, perfect. Your first answer is doctor, right?
Because that's something that sort of thing if your people will say.
Okay. Well, all the studies, and there have been a number of studies, have shown that AI is really good at being a doctor. Way better than a normal doctor is.
I've seen it in like surgeries with machines.
Oh, I mean, not only just even like just your local GP kind of stuff, diagnosis, AI blows doctors out the water.
Really?
Funnily enough, in some of the research studies, AI with the doctor, so the doctor plus AI performed worse than the AI itself.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. So this is what I mean as well. Like if I tell somebody, hey, factor in AI, they're gonna think I'm gonna go to medicine. But honestly speaking, and this is a bit controversial, but you can replace your GP right now, and I can almost guarantee you that AI will do a better job.
Yeah.
Because your GP has like 5 minutes with you, and they're not going to take your whole history into account. And
I will have
AI is going to.
in yeah.
It's kind of like this. This is an example that one of the godfathers of AI gave, where he said, you go to your local GP, for example, right? And let's say they've seen 10,000 patients in their lifetime over the course of many years, right? You go to an AI, this AI has seen millions of patients because of how much data it has seen, right? Which do you think is going to be able to perform pattern matching better?
Right.
The human that's seen 10,000 patients or the AI that's seen 1 million patients, right? And if you have like a really niche issue, you have some problem somewhere, right? The human obviously in their own experience is limited by their experience.
Yeah.
They're only going to be able to understand that, okay, within my understanding of these issues, you might have this problem.
Based on my training and what I've dealt with over like 10 years, I would suspect you have
Kitten stones.
Exactly right. But the AI is going to be able to explore so many different possibilities simply because of data that it has seen, right? So even something like medicine, right, which a lot of people think that, oh, that's going to be saved from AI. It might be saved from AI from a bureaucratic lens, right? Like where the organization simply won't let AI be involved, right? But in terms of actual usage, I can tell you right now, and this is probably, again, controversial, but you can probably replace your GP with AI right now, and you would almost certainly find better results.
It wouldn't be surprise me. Like a lot of people, I mean, the common experience you go to the GP is you go there, like they told me what I already thought, or they tell me the same thing like the male GP told me, which hasn't fixed it. Like I don't often hear positive experiences of a GP. But I've even seen stuff where they're talking about like using machines and AI to like do surgery, and it's like because it's so pinpoint accurate. So it is. I mean, I kind of said doctor because I think I've heard a few things in that space, but that's probably what a 15-year-old would say. Moya, I mean, surely that's going to surely like just all the grunt work of like paralegal stuff and whatnot is already going to be, surely it's already starting to be overtaken. But is it, I know AI makes no too many mistakes for right now. I'm not too sure.
Oh, well, I think it's,
So he's with the mic a little bit.
oh, sorry.
It's just,
I think it's
yeah, but
I think it's a matter of how it's been implemented. Like the thing is, even with law, for example, it'll happen eventually. Like if it's not now, 10 years time, like honestly, it's hard to predict even this year, like 6 months ahead. 10 years time, honestly, no one can actually say what we're going to have in 10 years because the people that are building these AI products, these AI models, they're saying that in like 2 years, we're going to have AGI, basically, artificial general intelligence. Do I believe them? Not really.
which is what's AGI?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I don't think there's an official definition for AGI, but artificial general intelligence basically means it's an AI that's as smart as a human being.
Isn't AI already smarter than human?
Well, that's
Although yeah, IQ is technically better. But
well, that's the thing. It's like, well, depending on the question.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a test actually. where it's called Arc AGI, and it was basically to see that, and the creator basically said if an AI could pass this test, then we basically have AGI. It's a very simple test. Anybody could pass this test. It's just basic pattern matching with some shakes and stuff. And very recently, OpenAI's O3 model got like 86% on this test. But everyone was like, no, it's not AGI. It's not AGI. Right. So the way that we test it is basically going to say whether or not it is AGI or not. It's practically impossible to say.
Yeah.
Is the average person smarter than AI model? It just depends on how you test them, right?
And what you define smart as.
Exactly, right? If I ask an AI to like write me some code, which obviously most people can't do, then yeah, AI is going to be better than that, right? So it really just depends in that regard, how you define that. But we're already seeing AI, like, it can do things that, like, 10 years ago, if you told somebody that, hey, we have an AI that can do this, they would say this is AGI. Yeah. Right? So the goalposts are constantly moving. That's the truth. That's why I also don't think we will ever actually define AGI and say that, oh, we have AGI.
Right.
Because the goalposts are always moving.
Yeah.
And I also think it would be politically even problematic to say that we have an AI that's basically as smart as an average.
Well, I've seen a few videos of like, like you can tell an AI voice. Like they're getting better and better, but I've seen some release and it's like, whoa. It's like,
well, there's actually a new one called Sesame.
Yeah, maybe that's the video I saw, and it was like a girl or a woman speaking, and you're like, "Ma'am, that sounds fully like a human."
Yeah. So there's a new one called Sesame that just came out like last week or something. They've actually released it open source for free, so you can even download it and use it however you want. Which is a bit worrying, but
yeah,
it's phenomenal. The average person would not be able to tell that it's AI.
Yeah,
100%.
And that's like. That's kind of like, I feel like Iron Man Jarvis was always like a good, like,
yeah.
Oh man, if we ever get to that, that's crazy. And the fact that was unobtainable in 2008 when it came out, and now a decade later, it's like, well, we're not far away from Jarvis. If not, Sesame could be.
We have it. You could definitely build a system that uses voice AI and like can control your computer and do things 100%. That can already be done there.
Yeah, but it's more the way Jarvis it speaks so fluently like a human.
Oh yeah.
And you can't really tell that's AI. And I've seen like it's like this stuff. But yeah, no coming out. I assume you've seen the movie Her?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because, like, anyone who hasn't seen Her, it's this movie where this guy is lonely and he gets an AI on his phone and, like, falls in love with the AI. And to the point where they're having a picnic and his phone's out and she's on, like, loudspeaker with her friends and stuff. And the plot twist is, like, he finds out that she's also in a relationship with, like, 50,000 other men around the world. It's, but honestly, in the times that we're in, and you look at like what's happening in Japan, they've got like a name for these. There's like they call them like these men usually never leave your apartment.
Yes.
And you go, it's gonna be so dangerous that you can just immediately get this like, man or woman, like woman voice that's gonna say everything you want to hear. Is never gonna complain. It's gonna be like the perfect companion, except for the fact that they're not real. And it's like, man, it's gonna warp our perception of like woman with a real woman. And they're not perfect like this AI. Like, I think it's really worrying. And for anyone who's in a bad mental space, these single things could be like real addictions. And the movie Her, I do believe, is not far away.
Okay, you've touched on a very good point. I actually wrote about this 2 years ago. Like, that's how afraid I was of this scenario playing out. And over the course of these last 2 years, have you heard of Replica?
No.
Have you heard of Character AI?
No.
Okay, so Character AI is this website where you can basically chat with fictional characters.
Oh, wow. Like real fiction, as in like...
like fictional, as in like from a game.
But like real fictional characters.
Yeah,
like Frodo.
Yes. It is... Or it was at least up until recently. I don't know the current most exact details, but even like a couple months ago, it was doing about 20% of Google's traffic. Why? As in like, so if Google was doing 120,000 queries a second, they were doing 20,000 queries. It's what?
Because someone's doing like...
Because people... the amount of people that were using the product.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, people are genuinely addicted to talking to these AIs, that they're in relationships with them.
Yeah.
So the Replica AI is also this other AI platform where you can basically get into a relationship with this like 3D AI. And there was a point where like the product went down and all these people went onto Reddit and they were like, I've lost my relationship with my partner. And
So it was already happening.
it's already happened. And people were like freaking out. Like, just to like give you an example of how addicted people can get, when Character.ai, they announced they were beta testing phone calls with these AI characters.
So I was going to ask, are these chats or
These are
chatting?
No, these are
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now you can
That's where it's going to be crazy.
you know, so you can talk to them now. You can like phone, you can like call from phone. When Character AI was beta testing, they tested it with about like 3 million of their users. They had like about 20 million at the time, as far as I can remember. And they found that the people that they tested it with, on average, called their AI partners or whatever 7 times a day.
Wow.
And I think they were talking for like a long time.
Wow.
Like, people are already getting very addicted to these AI models in a very, I'm gonna be honest, in a very unhealthy way. And this is just the ground level. Like, I can tell you things, research that's being done, that's genuinely frightening in terms of where we're going into the future.
Well, tell us.
Okay, so
Don't leave us hanging.
did you know that there's research being done where they are able to visualize your dreams? So you sleep and then they can actually see what you're dreaming.
Wow. Like
Yeah, like replay. They can like
yeah.
like fully like see.
How the hell could that be possible?
I have absolutely no idea. But not only that,
Is this one of those things? I feel like AI is like the ultimate snowballing machine, because it's like once it starts to learn that everything becomes more efficient and AI is in everything, and then it's just learning on learning on learning on learning, and it's just like we can start to enter the next era of civilization, sort of thing.
definitely, yeah, definitely. Like, I think all these AI models, or like large language models, they're built on an architecture called the Transformer. So Google released this architecture in 2017 or 16, I believe. Most of the research, even this that I just mentioned, is being done on this Transformer architecture. And so AI definitely has advanced and sort of increased the acceleration 100%. Other work that's being done, so like, Elon Musk's Neuralink.
Yeah.
So they're not the only company that's sort of doing that, but the idea here is, and I truly believe this is going to happen, based on everything that I've seen, I don't doubt that this will happen. We're going to be able to implant like a chip into your brain, and you're going to be able to like watch a movie just by like sitting down and like in your eyes, you'll be able to see the movie right in front of you, right? Where it gets really scary is AI video is getting pretty good. Like, I would say within 2 years, we're basically going to have, and that 2 years is generous, we're going to have photorealistic AI videos. And we get to that point. Have you watched the movie Inception?
Yeah.
There's a part in Inception where they go to get like the really strong sedative, and they meet the character. I think his name is Yusuf, and he shows them the strong sedative, and all the people are asleep. And the main character, Leonardo DiCaprio, he asks, why are they sleeping? And one of the characters, he says to him, because their dream has become reality, right? Like they basically work and they come here and they just sleep for the rest of the time because that's their reality.
It's like Sword Art Online, basically.
Yeah, basically, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we have a situation like that.
Have you seen Black Mirror?
I've seen certain episodes of Black Mirror.
You seen the one with the two women, and they're in different time zones, they're in different eras. So it's real quick. Okay. There's this 2 women that are like 25, and one's very nervous, and they're in like the 70s, and they're like having fun and stuff. And then the night ends, and it's like 30 days later, and now it's like the 80s. 30 days later, now it's like the 90s, and having fun and stuff. And it turns out they're like really old women in a retirement home, and once a month they get to go into this like virtual world. And because they're trying it out before they decide to die and move their consciousness into this virtual world. And that's kind of a twist. And then eventually they decide, she goes, you know what? Okay, I'm ready. And they like, in real life, she dies, her body's dead. And then she kind of lives at 25 years old in this world. And it's like the second that happens, I feel like humanity starts to become over, because if you're the virtual world,
no one is living a better life in the real world. Literally no one. And no single person on this planet is having a better life than a world which they can control every single thing. They have the perfect partner, the perfect family. You're the main character. You're literally the main character in this world. Anything goes. And it's like, if we can ever get to the point where we're like, you don't feel pain. You don't feel it, and suddenly we're losing all our humanity, and everyone's perfectly attracted, the best body, and you don't have to work for anything, and it's just like, man, it's scary stuff. It's scary stuff.
It absolutely is. Honestly, like as depressing as this might sound, I think the best example of like what the future might look like is actually Blade Runner.
Right.
Oh,
Or no, Wally.
Wall-E is possible. Oh, they did destroy the Earth, so maybe, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe, yeah. But I think Blade Runner, because like they showed the relationship, or even in Blade Runner 2049, how he has a relationship with the AI character.
Yeah, I mean,
With
that's where we're going, for sure.
I can.
And she's like, and that's one thing. She's like the most gorgeous woman, the beautiful voice, says everything you want to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, it's not only that, it's trained to whatever that person wants to. So it's like,
Absolutely.
which means suddenly you'll struggle to ever like love someone else or like a real person, because we're not perfect.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
people are not, going to fulfill your every fantasy.
And what the really scary thing about the whole AI models is that one of the attributes or like the characteristics of these models, like ChatGPT and any of them, is that they will always mirror what you want to hear. Right? They're a bit sycophantic in that way, where if you say something, they'll always agree with you almost
Yeah,
always.
I was saying this yesterday because I was like brainstorming this new business kind of idea, and I was like, every single time I say don't do this, they'll be like, amazing idea, but well done. And I'm like,
They all
no, I need you to like, is this a good idea?
they will
Or-
challenge you.
Yeah, and that's a dang about it. They don't challenge you.
No, absolutely.
It'll challenge you if you ask it like, okay, but which one do you think is better? It'll then give you like the pros and cons and stuff, and it might start to give some opinions. It's like, ultimately, I think you should do a mix of both or do this one or something. But you really have to ask the right questions. But yeah, it will just be like,
Oh, no, absolutely.
amazing, dude.
Like, even like, for example, if it thinks you have certain political beliefs, it'll mirror those political beliefs. And it will always mirror whatever it thinks that you think, right? And so that's obviously quite dangerous, especially if someone's in a relationship with something like this. Their worldview is always going to be, like reinforced over and over.
Yeah.
And over.
And so there's stuff like this, putting stuff in your brain, because that sounds absolutely insane, right? I've seen some clips of Elon Musk talking about it, and other people saying, I think Mark Zuckerberg was like, well, it'll start off for people who have like, brain injuries, and because they're, well, not brain injury, like the physical injuries, because they're the ones who are like, well, I don't have as much to lose, and then once it becomes normalized, people will start doing it and whatnot. But like, are we actually close to that, or is it people just talking? It's hard to tell.
It's actually
It is happening.
It's happening. Absolutely, it's happening, and it will happen. It's happening. So like, Elon Musk's Neuralink. Now, I don't know, like talking about Elon Musk, but the Neuralink company itself, like they've shown that somebody was able to play Counter-Strike, again Counter-Strike,
Yes.
yeah, with their brain.
Yeah, I've seen they do it with Monkey as well. The Monkey was like controlling stuff. They have like the Monkey pressing buttons, and it was controlling like a basic game. It was pressing buttons, and then they turned off the buttons, and it was like pressing them, but buttons weren't working.
But it was actually controlling with this brain.
Oh no! I say it's not even like that. As in, the interface was literally the person thought about what to do, and it happened in the game. So the future of how we use technology itself is very different to how it is now.
I've always said for a while, and I like talking about itself because it's like, it's hypothetical and it's also potential real and whatnot. But I've always said, like, I honestly think that I could live until like 500, 600, 700 years old, because like we can get to a point where like our bodies don't really, not our bodies, but like, let's say I'm in my, I'm 26 right now. And it's like, hopefully I've got another 50, 60, 70, 80 years. So like, what could happen in that time if we're still around? Is there a world where I just get uploaded into some place and I live? And is that something people go, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. Like, it's not human. And I'm like, you say that now, but give it time to implement over 40, 50 years. And when you're knocking on death's door and you have the option to do it, it's just like, do you think it's possible?
All I'll say is that there's work being done.
Yeah.
There is work being done. People are actually trying to do this. There is a movement for that. People are trying to make that happen. What I think it's very questionable, in my opinion. At what point are we gonna be like, okay, there are certain things that we simply just shouldn't do?
Will we ever get to that point? Like with capitalism, and did you watch the Diary of a CEO episode? There's like this emergency episode. He did this episode like 2 or 3 years ago. It was an emergency episode. And he had like one of the top Google AI guys come in and stomp something. And he was just saying, like, one of the parts is just like, the issue is, it's like everyone is scared of AI and aware of the fact that we are moving too quickly. But it's like, the device slow down, Google's not going to slow down, and Elon Musk is not going to slow down, and no one is slowing down, because if we stop and we go, no, we're going to be ethical, we're going to slow down, then we're going to go out of business eventually, and we're not going to be able to keep up. And that's where capitalism plays in. It's like, do we just move too quickly and end up imploding? But is that where like having the open AI has been a bit of a blessing?
Well, open source definitely, or OpenAI is definitely not open.
Sorry, open source.
Yeah. I don't know. No, I know. It's
Could you explain that to people? What open source means?
yeah. Well, open source basically just means sharing your research and the actual products, basically everything, with the general public, right? And open source, at least in the science and sort of tech community, has been like very prevalent. Like the reason why everything that is happening right now has happened is because Google open sourced their research for years. Google open sourced the Transformer architecture in 2017. They open sourced so many different research papers and it's because of that research that was open source, ChatGPT was able to be built.
And why are they doing it? Just because they think it's better for humanity?
Well, that's how humans look. The only way we're going to advance is through collaboration. And it's always been like that. Right. And when you put research out there, somebody else who's passionate about that is going to use that. They're going to then build something on top of that. They're going to open source that.
That's nice to hear, because I would have thought
The large American companies are like, someone might do that and then build something better than us and crutch us.
Well, that's kind of what did happen to Google.
it is with OpenAI.
Exactly, with OpenAI, right? They took Google's research, they built the product, and they were the first people to go to market. And ChatGPT then became the fastest growing product ever.
Yeah.
Basically. But open source is really important in AI, especially for the average person. So for me and you and anybody else that's listening, it's really important because it democratizes access to these very powerful AI models. The reality is, moving into the future, a person or a company or a country that has access to a very powerful AI is going to be at an advantage compared to somebody who doesn't.
Oh, it would cripple, like, Western countries, are already so far ahead of third world countries. It's like to add something like that would just give them no chance.
Right. So the sort of like difference in access to information and accessibility is immense. And so what open source does, it democratizes this access. Anybody can use, and that's why like the release of the DeepSeek, have you heard of?
Yeah. They say I heard a lot of rumors like it launched when it was like 6 million or something, and that was bullshit.
Can I just de-out all this? Okay, so there's a Chinese company called DeepSeek. They're actually, the original company is actually a hedge fund, and they, as a side project, essentially, I wouldn't call it exactly a side project, but on the side, they started fine-tuning and releasing AI models and research papers. So for the last 2 years, they have released like 16 research papers open to the public, open source, very detailed, very technical, talking about how they did this and whatnot. And just to give a bit of a timeline, what happened was they released an AI model called V3 in December last year. In the sort of research paper regarding that model V3, they basically said that for the final training run for this AI model, we spent $5 million.
Yeah, and that's like built, yeah.
Right. And they used 2,000 GPUs, but only for the final training run. They specifically stated that we didn't use this amount doesn't include the research that went to actually creating the model, the data collection, and everything else that's involved. It was only the final training run. Then in January or February, I'm not sure when R1 released, right? Like, so just very recently, they released their reasoning model R1. And so what happened was, the reason why everybody said, oh, DeepSeek released the R1 model and they only built it for 5 million, how stupid is OpenAI? That's what happened. The thing is, a reasoning model needs a base model. And so the base model was V3. And on top of that, they built R1. Okay. And then they released that. So the DeepSeek R1 model, which is very good, by the way, was not built for $5 billion. It was not built using 2,000 GPUs. That's not true.
Yeah.
I think people just sort of obviously didn't read the research paper and misunderstood that.
And the headlines to go.
And obviously, exactly. And because it's from China as well. And so obviously there's a lot of...
There's such mistake in China.
Exactly. Or they're the enemy that, especially for American companies.
Yeah.
But to be completely honest, what China has been doing in AI is the best thing for the average person. That's the truth. them open sourcing these models, open sourcing R1, for example, and releasing these research papers, and they talk about details, how to build the AI model. This is what we did. These are techniques that we use. It is so beneficial for the average person like you and me, because what's happened after DeepSeek released R1, OpenAI made their API cheaper. They released their more powerful AI models to everybody for them to use. They're like lobbying the US government now to ban Chinese models, right? Simply because they are competitive, right? These Chinese companies have figured out also how to build very powerful AI models, and they're open sourcing them. They're not commoditizing these models, and that's very good for us, right? Like that's very good for the average person. So open source is very important, and unfortunately, the reality is the only companies and the only companies that really care and are actually open sourcing are Chinese companies, like DeepSeek, for example.
Yeah. Real.
Yeah. Like, and if anything, the American companies are lobbying against the Chinese companies. They're like so much so that they're saying ban their models, which is ridiculous because the model itself is like you can't ban.
So couldn't you argue that the Chinese built it off the original? Like, did they use OpenAI originally, or are they not doing it outside of it?
Okay. So that's a very good question because I've seen this online as well. It's a bit ironic that OpenAI can say ban them because they used our model to train their model when OpenAI stole all of the data on the internet to train their model originally, right? Like, why? How can OpenAI ever claim?
Right, because OpenAI took it from Google, as you're saying.
Oh yeah, but OpenAI has trained their AI models on all the information on the internet, right? So like we're talking tons of books, videos, content creators, YouTube videos, all that sort of stuff, right? Have these people been compensated for their work? Yeah, of course not, right? So OpenAI has no claim to say somebody is stealing our data. That's not your data, right? Anything your model produces, it's taken from stolen information, stolen data. So you can't say, "Hey, don't steal from us," when you stole from everybody else.
And that's the thing. Like, I think there's so many jobs we can't even understand. Like, our photographers going to go out of business. Like nature photographers, well, because have you on the other tell the difference? Are there like, I don't know. I just think there's so many things we can't even comprehend that are gonna be hit, and like, I don't know. I know we always survive it. Like every time there's a big thing, whether it was the Industrial Revolution and everyone, how there's not gonna be enough jobs because the machines are taking over, and we survived that. It was fine because new stuff came out, and the computers came out. Oh, computers are gonna take over. No, that's fine. Create new opportunities. The internet hits. The internet's gonna destroy so many jobs. No, like, hey, it's created a lot of jobs as well. Is AI gonna be the same, or am I just like, because to me it does feel like surely AI is going to kill more jobs than it creates. Surely. But maybe it'll create more economic growth in companies, which allow people like. And I know you're not an economist, and this is such an advanced thing, so I'm just getting your opinions. But
this is definitely I've had conversations about this, and obviously a lot of people online also talk about this. A lot of people say basically what you've just said is that surely it'll be fine. We've survived in the past. We'll survive again. But to be honest, I have no idea what these new jobs AI will.
I feel like AI is more unknown than any of the past examples I gave. But then maybe it's just because I'm not experiencing it, and I didn't experience going to the Industrial Revolution.
But to be honest, like we've never had a technology like this.
No.
Like this is the most powerful technology we've ever created. Like, is there any comparison? Like with I can buy Claude, the most powerful AI model for Claude Sonnet 3.7 for $30 a month, and I don't think in the history of humanity there's ever been a tool
So accessible to
so cheap
Yeah.
that can have such an impact on my life, and like so I can do so much with it for $30 a month. Has there ever been such a powerful tool that I can pay $30 for, and I can like build an entire business? I can code whatever I want. I can get so much content. I can have access to this extremely intelligent AI system for $30 a month.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is unfound territory. That's the truth, and the reality is anybody who makes predictions. That's all it is. It's just a prediction.
Yeah.
And no one really knows what's going to happen. As far as I see it, I don't know what these new jobs that AI is going to create are. I've thought about it, and I don't know what that looks like. I simply don't understand. Like OpenAI has been talking about UBI, like Universal Basic Income, for like a while, and they actually ran the biggest test for UBI, I think last year or the year before that. And I think I'm starting to understand why they're talking about that, because
They're going to kill so many jobs.
I don't see how so many, like, I honestly don't see how things are going to play out because as I said, any job that can be done on a computer can be automated with AI. And that's when you say eventually, we're talking within 12 months. We're talking 18 months.
Well, the thing, like, even like, my girlfriend's in the accounting industry, and it's like they still need accountants, but like the accountants can get so much work done with AI. And well, the truth is, most of those people aren't even implementing it enough. Most companies aren't.
Oh, they're not at all.
Yeah.
They're not at all.
Like, it's only a small amount compared to what it could be.
Absolutely.
And well, I mean, first of all, I agree. I can't see, and again, we could be completely wrong because I know people couldn't see this with the internet as well and other huge things, but I can't see a way where AI doesn't completely change the economy once it just overtakes. And there has to be some sort of universal basic income, and then to become more of a social society where AI is just doing most of the grunt work and the heavy lifting and doing our work for us. And maybe there's a world where AI does all the awful things we don't have to do, and humanity is just hobbies and games and living life. But I don't think so. Or is there a world where AI goes the other way? Like, what do you think the dangers are? Like, is there a world where we implode through AI?
I think if there's any danger of imploding through AI, because I know there's a lot of people that talk about AI is going to cause World War III and it's
Terminator or whatever.
Or Terminator. Look, I would highly recommend not listening to those kinds of scenarios. Like, just to give an example, when ChatGPT was released, AI safety people were like, this is so dangerous, don't do this, whatever. Then when GPT-4 was released, which was only a couple months later in March, people were like, this is incredibly irresponsible and not safe. We now have open source models, as in like anybody could download and do whatever they want with them, that are significantly more powerful than those models, and nothing has happened in the world. In the grand scheme of things, nothing's changed, right? There is no Terminator situation. So I wouldn't be too worried about that kind of situation. What I think is more concerning is, number one, what we spoke about regarding human relationships and the effect AI is going to have on people generally as a society. Number one. And number two is, I think, misinformation is a big problem.
Yeah.
Like, even if you go on Twitter right now, for example, I think like there are so many bots, but you can never tell that they're bots.
Yeah. Well, I actually did a bit of an experiment. I did this. It was this LinkedIn tool, and it like auto comments on people's posts.
Yeah. That it's so obvious.
And
it's so obvious.
It is. No, you think that's what I mean. You think it is, but man, I trained in a way where it's like the comments are so casual. Like,
Okay.
people are like, oh, there's so many AI comments on LinkedIn, and there are, but I'm like, no one realized my comments, and I only did it for like 40. I hate the idea of people AI commenting on my behalf. I just wanted to test it and have a bit of fun with it. And I looked at the comments, and people are responding to it like, oh, hey, Byron, thanks for this and stuff. And it's like, because people have the conceptions like, I can tell an AI comment, and it's like, as soon as you customize it a little bit, trust me, you cannot.
Yeah.
Like,
I think, like, because I'm so heavily involved with AI, like,
you would. Yeah.
you can sort of tell, but the average person, no chance.
Like, this was like, the comments were like, you write it in a certain way. It's like, don't say anything too specific. Keep it somewhat vague. Don't use exclamation marks. Don't use emojis. And you basically say everything that a normal AI does. Don't do this, and you can train it up really easily. I mean, I guess moving forward, like, what you mentioned, you like Claude the best. What do you think are the best models out there? What should people think? If they're like, listen to this episode, they're like, I should do AI a lot more. I mentioned I'm using Gemini. I use Gemini because like I pay for it as part of my Google Suite. So it's like, well, it's just there, and I don't have to pay extra for it. And it's good. I really like it. But you like Claude? What do you think?
Oh, I think it just depends now. So the thing with AI models now is that a lot of them have gotten really good. So all the models are now pretty good.
They're all
Gemini,
for every person.
yeah, exactly. Claude. So it just depends on what you want to do. I think for coding, Claude is definitely, and when I say Claude, I mean the paid version of Claude, not the free version. It's for coding, I would say it's the best. It's phenomenal. But even generally, I think Claude is a really good AI just generally to work with. I think it's very good at understanding intent and whatever assumptions that it needs to make regarding somebody's questions and stuff. I use Gemini for research. The best thing about Gemini is that its context window, so how much information you can give it, is very, very large. It's like 10 times or like 20 times the size of Claude or OpenAI. And so the way I use Gemini is I will give it like 5 or 10 research papers, and I'll get it to summarize it for me, and I'll like do my research using Gemini. I think people should use or try out reasoning models. So the reasoning models are DeepSeek R1 or OpenAI's O1. God, the naming is really bad.
Yeah.
O1 or O3.
Yeah.
So with these reasoning models, they kind of like think before they respond, and you can actually read their thinking. So it's called like thinking traces. I think it's very fascinating because you get an insight into how this AI model is like thinking. And I think there's a lot to learn from that as well. One cool thing I would recommend is Google very recently, actually, like a couple of days ago, released an AI model that can output images. So you can talk to it and you can output images. I would recommend trying it out because I think it's pretty cool.
Right. Which ChatGPT sucks at that.
ChatGPT. Oh no. So So the way ChatGPT works is that ChatGPT itself is using, let's say, an LLM, a large language model, which is a text-based model called GPT-4o, right? And when it wants to generate images, it will then call a different model called DALL-E to actually generate the image, and then come back.
Yeah.
Google's AI,
All in one.
all in one. It's natively generating images, so it works with text and images in itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
That's what makes it very fascinating.
Google AI was the most exciting for me as someone who uses the Google ecosystem because it's like, man, if that was all embedded, that is craziness because now everything's talking. Your Google Calendar, your emails, which it already was talking. Like AI's been around for a while, but like if it's got these more advanced models, same with like Apple AI, is intelligence is like, oh wow, now like it's all connected to everything, which means it's just like that's where you start to get the Jarvis thing, where it's like iMac can kind of say anything, and Jarvis like, oh, let me check that for you, let me do this for you, I can connect that, and it's like suddenly you've got this like AI that really is helpful. Like Siri's been useless. I mean, I've found Siri like call this person, but I'll be like, Siri, what about this? And it'll be like, here's a Google search for you, basically. And it's like, oh.
So Apple's really dropped the ball.
Yeah, they do feel like it's like, how you're one of the biggest companies in the world. What's going on?
Well, that's what happens when you get big.
Yeah, it's a lot of
bureaucracy, red tape. Apple has dropped the ball hardcore, definitely.
Yeah.
But
but they can catch up quick. They dominate so hard. They release an amazing one. People will switch to it quickly.
Well, the good thing for Apple is one, they already have the distribution.
Yeah.
Most people already have an iPhone, or half people, whatever, have an iPhone or a MacBook, whatever it is. And two, they don't have to build their own AI models. They can just use an open source model and implement it into Apple AI, right? When they will do that, I have absolutely no idea. I don't know why they've been implementing AI with like emojis and stuff. I think that's ridiculous. Like, I think Apple has definitely dropped the ball.
We've got Apple Intelligence coming out, didn't they?
It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
it's terrible. It's terrible. Trust me. It's
well, at time of recording this, is terrible.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I'm mindful. I don't want to be too specific about right now.
Oh, okay.
Because like, if someone listens to 6 months' time, it'll be like completely redundant conversation.
Oh well, I mean, I would be very surprised even in 6 months if Apple does anything, because it's been 2 years now. Apple hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Right. They've even delayed the release of Apple Intelligence a number of times. I honestly, I don't know what's happening at Apple, but it's been really disappointing to see because they're such a large company, right? And that they have very talented people there, but I don't think that they've really, they've done what they can.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been a really cool conversation. It's been a lot of fun. Is there anything else? Is there anything we missed? Is there anything you like wanted to specifically mention? Like,
oh, I feel like there are so many different places this could go, but I always just recommend people to try it out. But when you try it out, please don't use like the free version of ChatGPT and then be like, oh, this is not very good. If you're going to try it out, try a model that you know is going to be very good. Like maybe perhaps Google's Gemini, which is free. Oh, you know what? You can use Google's Gemini models for free, the best AI models on the planet, aistudio.google.com, as much as you want for free. So if you want to try out some of the best models, you can use Gemini for free at that website. But I would just recommend people to try it out and actually build something small. Like it could be anything, a little website or a tool or whatever it is. I think people will be very surprised to see how well it works. Very recently, so Anthropic released a tool called Claude Code. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's basically, it sits in your computer's terminal.
Yes, and it's all in. So like it's completely trying it.
Oh yeah, as in it connects to obviously Claude's, as in like Anthropic's model online, but like it can do whatever you want it to do on your local, like let's say on your desktop. You can create a file and do whatever and code whatever it can, right?
Right.
And so Claude Code, like it can build your website on your desktop that you can then like run however you want, or like a little game or whatever it is, and it's phenomenal. It is unbelievably good. And I think using that, people will be able to see how good AI is now and where it's kind of going. I think if you see how well AI can write code and build things and do things on the internet, you kind of get an understanding of where we're headed, because I think people don't fully understand that. So I would definitely recommend just try out an AI model. Try it out, ask it some very hard questions, and see what it can do for you, and like build something if you can as well.
Yeah, awesome. No, it's good stuff. I think it'll be an interesting time to see how it all unfolds. But it's been a really cool conversation. A lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. Really, you know your stuff. It's cool to see. My final question is, and it has nothing to do with what we've been talking about, but maybe you want to link it to what we've been talking about. But I always ask, like, what advice would you give to the young person nowadays?
Be curious. Always be curious. I think my biggest personal problem with school is that I think it does not nurture curiosity in children. It rather destroys it. Be curious. I think no matter what happens with AI, what industries have overrun and like what jobs are lost, whatever, if you're curious and you find what you're passionate about and you sort of go into that, you'll be fine no matter what happens.
Love it. No, I completely agree. Like, it's disgusting how much curiosity gets killed at school. It's actually insane. It killed my curiosity a bit.
That's my biggest problem with school.
Yeah. No, that's great. Be curious. Take the risks, so you can put yourself out there and just see what happens.
Absolutely. Always be curious.
Always be curious. I love it, man. Well, listen, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, if they want to like check out your website or if interested in consulting or just following you online, sign a newsletter, where's the best place to go?
Also, my newsletter is called No Longer a Nincompoop with Noful. That was actually coined by Lily, funnily enough.
It was called. She called.
She coined the name
No way.
of my newsletter. Yes.
Oh man, so you got it.
So yeah. Or if you just put my name up in Google, Noful Khan, it'll come up.
Yeah.
My consultancy is called Avicenna. Excuse me. Based on like this famous philosopher back in the day. But yeah.
Yeah, and we'll put all the links below. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great episode. And
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.